My name is Duddy, set up builds and stuff. Today's video is going to be 3 absolutely insane builds for minus 50 GM activities. These 3 builds are absolutely nuts. We're going to be featuring a Prismatic Hunter, which lets you tank loads of damage. We're going to be featuring a Strand Titan, which literally lets you plow through enemies with also massive damage reduction. All of these featured are going to be able to put out big damage as well as massive tanky reduction. And then we've got a Stasis warlock build. At the beginning of the season, people said this was trash. The super was trash. Everything about this build is trash, but it's turned out to be one of the best builds of the season, and I was all over it. So I'm going to break the video down. Just before I get into the actual video, I just want to say it's going to be a briefing. It's not going to be an actual full sort of build breakdown for every single build, but I will link every single video and build in the video description, so stay with me, I'll break the video down. One of my favourite exotics of all time on a Titan, the Abeyant Leap Strand, obviously, but you can run this on Prismatic. I like to run it on Strand. These things are absolutely insane. You're going to improve your Drenger's Lash, and you also get Woven Mail every time you suspend something, whether that is with your Drenger's Lash or your Shackle Grenade. You can literally just keep suspending things over and over again, and every time you do it, you're going to get Woven Mail. And of course, this season, we've had a massive buff to these type of builds, anything that revolves around class ability and grenades via the Sage Armor, the 2-piece combat meditation, sword hits, return grenade, and class ability energy. You don't need the 4-piece for this particular build. You could run something like Texec or Bushido for a bit of extra healing, whatever you want, but the 2-piece for your class ability gains is what you need. You don't need the 4-piece, in my opinion. Just run the 2-piece and you can literally keep looping your class ability over and over again. And I don't really like to build into healing too much with other gear sets because you've got Banner of War. When you defeat a target with a finisher, melee attack or a sword, you're going to get Banner of War, which is going to keep you healing, ticking over nice and steadily for you and your teammates. So you've got plenty of healing on this build, especially if you pair it up with your Praxic Blade or other swords. You don't have to use a Praxic Blade, there's other swords in the game, but Praxic Blade this season is just too good not to run, in my opinion. Just absolutely incredible. Just being able to suspend things left, right and centre, looping your Woven Mail, which is a 40% damage reduction, and that bit of healing from Banner of War is just really nice. Now, regarding your Praxic Blade, I don't like to run the healing form, I like to run the offensive form, because I've got that Banner of War, so you're basically going to do extra damage against bosses and vehicles, which is really good for champs. Like I said, you don't need too much healing, because you've got your Banner of War, so you may as well run that offensive form, in my opinion. This really helps. Texec is really good 2-piece to pair with it, but you can, if you wanted to, build in something like Bushido. And again, with the Praxic Blade, you don't need to run 2-piece Swordmaster because you've got the Impact Core, which severs anyway whilst you're on your Strand subclass. So your 2-piece is entirely up to you, but the 2-piece Sage is where it's at. That'll enable you to keep looping and looping your class ability over and over again. And you've got that offensive form to take care of champions. And like I said, it's really good for you, for yourself, if you do solo stuff. I've soloed a few GMs with this myself, but it's also really good for your teammates. Now, don't forget, when you suspend something, the damage reduction is actually massive because nothing is hurting you while you suspend stuff anyway. And the Drenger's Lash, even with champions, lasts about 4 or 5 seconds. So it's just a really good all-round build. And if you're thinking of starting up doing GMs or something like that, you're sort of newish to the game, get yourself on Abeyance, and this will see you right through mostly everything in the game. Now, the second one is going to be a Prismatic Hunter build. This one is just even got more damage reduction than this Titan build. Look at the state of this. This enables you to go toe-to-toe with the Warden and standing all that solar damage. This one is absolutely insane. Like I said, it is a Prismatic Hunter build. And this class item combo is truly disgusting. Spirit of the Renewal will give you ×5 frost armor, and it reduces enemies' damage while you're inside of that, while they're inside of that Dustfield Grenade as well. So it's like a severing effect. And then you've also got Spirit of Cytarachne, where you're also going to get Woven Mail every time you throw your grenade. So basically, you throw your grenade, you're going to get Woven Mail and ×5 frost armor as long as you're stood inside of that that Dustfield Grenade, and you also reduce enemies' damage as well, so you really are an absolute tank. With this particular build, I do like to run the 4-piece Sage, just purely because when you block, you are going to get massive grenade damage. If you just run a 2-piece, you don't get your grenade back nowhere near as fast. So just look at my dust field grenade here. It's absolutely crazy. You can keep looping it. And what you actually do with this, I was doing this to show you it doing it wrong. What you actually do is you just block, get your blade focus once, and that will enable you to loop 2 grenades, so you only have to do it once. So basically, block, get your blade focus active, go at it, get 2 grenades, and then you don't have to do your blade focus again until you've used your 2 grenades. That's basically the loop I use, and that keeps you very tanky. You got your impact core, of course, and because we're on Prismatic, you can run either of these. I like to run the Void, because that weakens, that's a bit of extra damage for you and your teammates. But you can also run a solar subclass as well to apply Scorch and Ignition for a bit of extra damage. They're the 2 I like. You don't need to run, again, the Strand one because you're severing anyway, or doing the exhaust type of thing from the Dustfield Grenade. So, solar is obviously really good for unstoppables. You're going to be able to ignite, which causes unstoppable. You've got the weaken from Void, which is just going to give you extra damage for you and your teammates. But the main sort of thing with this build is how much damage reduction you get. You get 40% woven mail and ×5 frost armor all at the same time. That is ridiculous. I think ×5 frost armor is 33% and woven mail is 40%, and you do and enemies do less damage to you as well whilst you're inside of that Dustfield Grenade. So what you want to do is just make sure you got your Dustfield Grenade on that target, get your blade focus active, couple of loops, and you're going to get your Dustfield Grenade back. Look at the state of that, and you can just keep looping it and looping it over and over again. And once you've got used to it, it just takes a couple of practices. You can literally stand there and go toe to toe with raid bosses, GM bosses, things like that. And this Warden, as you know, it will burn you to death, but not when you've got this little setup on. You can stand there and go to toe with this fella, no problem at all. Now, the very last build I want to show you is the Stasis Warlock build. This one I hold very close to my heart because this one has been chronically underrated for about 2 or 3 seasons now, and Bungie keep buffing it, and it just keeps better and better. It doesn't need buffing, in my opinion, but they buffed it anyway, so I was happy. This super is absolutely ridiculous for GM level activities, -50. Look at the state of this super. It absolutely destroys big champions, mages, Banes, everything. This super is so underrated, and this actual build and exotic is chronically underrated. Like I said, I'm very passionate about this one. I am talking about the Balador's Wrathweaver. This gives you absolutely crazy shatter damage when you freeze targets when you've got these on. It also gives you frost armor ×8 and ×2 ×4 stasis weapons edges, and when you give these buffs to your teammates as well, you're going to get little chunks of super energy, so you can actually get a lot of super energy. But basically putting your rift down, as long as you're running the frost pulse aspect, will give you ×8 frost armor and 50% damage reduction as long as you're running Whisper of Rime. Again, 2-piece Sage, because you don't need your grenades too much. It's your class ability, so the 2-piece Sage is enough. And again, you could run something like Bushido, Texec as another 2-piece. It's entirely up to you, but you're going to get that ×8 frost. And if you've got like a stasis sword, you're going to get ×2 stasis weapon surge. Now, Frost Pulse is what you need to run. This actually got buffed as well. Freezing combatants generates class ability energy. Pair that up with your Ice Flare bolts, you're going to be able to freeze things left, right, and centre. You get so much class ability energy back, and if you run Whisper of Refraction, defeating Slowdown frozen combatants grants you class ability energy. A mixture with all them and the buff to Frost Pulse is just absolutely nuts. Just keep an eye on my class ability here, and this 2-piece Sage. It is absolutely ridiculous. You can literally just keep looping and looping. And obviously, if you're going to freeze things with your sword, the impact core will freeze things because you're on a stasis subclass. That's going to activate your frost pulse as well. So you're literally just looping your class ability left, right, and centre. It is really, really strong. And I watched a couple of videos at the beginning of the season about the super and how bad it was, apparently. Ignore them videos and listen to me. This super is absolutely insane, guys. Really, really strong. It got buffed at the beginning of the season. It got like a 200% shatter damage increase, which is ridiculous. It was already good. And just look on my class ability here. I've only just used it and I've got it back. That is like everything I've just shown you all working together. And like I said, this build will literally let you run through -50 GMs, anything in the game. It's really good for you. really good for your teammates. Just being able to stop the play with your Frost Pulse is just absolutely incredible, whilst being incredibly tanky as well. But that wraps up the video. Just to sort of clarify as well, I will leave all of these builds in the video description, a full video on them, and then inside them videos will also include a dim link if you are interested to see a bit more in depth about them. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.